We went to like this.
You're all right. Okay. Science page 158.
Now the organisms.
Whoa.
Can I 158 you said? No.
What?
158?
158. Okay. Now, we are still in the biosphere today. What sphere is the biosphere? What is it about, Sophie?
I know what it is.
What is?
It's all living things.
All living things. Biosphere. High five. Good job. Okay. So today we're going to be talking in a little bit more detail about certain living things. Not just birds. Okay. Now, I don't have a science book. I need somebody to share so I can take one. Perfect. Thank you. Okay. All right. We are going to have some vocabulary words today as well, so you will want something to write your vocabulary words on. Okay. On page 158. How do organisms avoid competition? An organism avoids competition by having a specific territory and a unique role within its ecosystem. A habitat, hang on, there are still a lot of people, almost every table has somebody talking right now. Okay. A habitat is the physical place where an organism lives and hunts for food. Some organisms have a very small habitat. Hillbugs, for example, spend most of their time under or around a stump or a rock. Just a single stump or rock. A bee's habitat is larger. It's not only the hive where it lives, but also the fields and forests where it's looking for its flowers. A niche, everybody repeat that, niche. It looks like niche or nichey, but it's niche. It's fancy, niche. And it's a special role that the organism plays in their little community. For example, two birds might live in the same location and eat the same food. But one bird is active at night while the other bird is active during the day. Therefore, the two birds are in different niches. A niche is kind of like their specialty, okay? And so that doesn't even apply to just this. Like you might say, oh, that's her niche. So like if I were to say, what's Lily's niche? Science. That's her thing. What's she good at? Science. It's her thing. Miss Babs' niche? Science also. It's my thing. But I've got people that live solidly in math zone and love math most of all. Fiona's smiling. Riley's nodding her head. Macy says she loves it too. I think Josie's going to grow up and be a mathematician, maybe. But a niche is kind of that organism's specialty in their little habitat, what they are known for in their habitat, okay? Write down niche. Special role organism plays in a community. That's your first vocabulary.
How do you spell that? N-I-C-H-E?
N-I-C-H-E, yes.
A special role.
Special role that an organism plays in a community. Okay, continuing on, the final paragraph on this page. In a similar way, two birds might share the same rainforest habitat but eat different foods. One bird is a plant eater while the other eats insects. Those are two different niches. Two birds occupy two different niches in the same community. For example, honey creepers are a group of related birds found on the island of Hawaii. They all share the same habitat, but they don't compete with each other because they're eating different foods. Now, if you had two birds in the same habitat that ate the same thing, that slept at the same time, and were active at the same time, but they're different birds, they would be in competition for who got all the food.
Like blue jays and birds.
Zeke says, well, like blue jays and cardinals, right? And if I look in my backyard, there's a number of different birds that are always I have like a bird feeder hanging on my back porch. And there are like a ton of birds that are always like fighting and like flying and knocking each other off the bird feeder, trying to get there. So they are occupying the same niche. They like the same kind of food. They're clearly in my backyard in the same habitat, and they're awake at the same time, and they're competing for the food in my bird feeder. Somebody's going to win. It's probably going to be the bigger, stronger birds. And the little guys are going to have to find somewhere else to go. They're going to be driven away.
Or if it's a tiny bird, they'll just crawl in the feeder.
They're not that tiny. They can't get in my feeder. Okay. Sophie. Hang on. I can't hear.
There are these two cardinals, and then they do the same thing every day. And I believe that their niche is just poking on my window every morning. That's what makes me.
There you go. All right, Sophie has a cardinal knocking on its window. Josie, yes, ma'am, I see your hand raised.
On my bird feeder, I know that kind of the littler birds are like know when to leave because like if a woodpecker comes, every single bird leaves, and it's just like pretty much just their size. They know.
Right. They're like, oh, I can't battle that woodpecker. I'm out of here. Peace out, Girl Scout. Zeke.
So we have 4 bird feeders.
Zeke has 4 bird feeders.
My mom just got 2 more, so we still have 4. So every bird used to be on one, and then once we got another one, more medium birds went to the other one because the big birds were on.
Okay.
I got 2 more, and we put them somewhere else, and all the little birds.
Okay. So Zeke said originally when I just had 1 bird feeder, all the birds were on the one. But as they got more bird feeders, the big birds stayed on one, then the medium birds went to one, and now that they just got another one at Christmas, now the little birds are on the other new one.
They're smart.
And so that's interesting that the big bird got to pick, and the smaller the bird, they just keep having to move to the next new one. They keep getting kicked off. They don't get their first choice at all.
Yeah.
Jason.
Since big birds are so sloppy, when they're eating the food, wouldn't food fall down and then the little birds can just
Yes, that happens too. So Jason said
crumbs.
sometimes you notice that the big birds can be sloppy. And I noticed that some of the birds that are standing on the feeder are like going nutso. And there's like some seeds and stuff that are falling down on the ground. And there are indeed at my house some littler birds that are down at the bottom eating what's down there. You know who else is at the bottom eating what falls out of the bird feeder?
Squirrels.
The squirrels.
Yum, yum.
The squirrels are down there eating up everything that the birds drop.
It's like the little mice. Oh,
Yes.
just met my
Okay? Riley.
I don't have to the birds and the flying.
Okay, you saw the birds and they were flying?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, Fiona.
Not all birds do this, but why do woodpeckers like to peck? Because I have this little metal for my vent and my bathroom. We have this metal thing coming out the top, and woodpeckers like to peck on it. Why do woodpeckers like to peck?
Why do woodpeckers like to peck? That's their niche. Why do they do that? They're the birds that do that, but why?
Their home.
Why,
I know why
Maggie?
they peck on trees because there's like these like little things that they eat that is in the tree, and I can if I am able to, I have this one tree in front of my house. It just has holes all around it, and maybe I can take a picture of it.
Okay, woodpeckers are pecking the wood because there's something in the wood that they want. Little tiny termites and bugs that get in your trees. There's all kinds of little bugs that live inside the tree. Not like in it, but there's a little bit of space in between the bark and the actual tree. And there's some little bugs that get in there. And so the woodpeckers are digging through the bark to get to the bugs beneath. Woodpeckers are bad for your tree because they remove all the bark. And so then your tree is exposed to, the bark is the protective covering.
Yeah.
So if it doesn't have bark, your tree is more exposed to bugs and other animals and elements like the wind and the rain. And it's not healthy for your tree. Your tree needs its bark.
Grace has
Okay, Grace, yes ma'am.
So when I used to be here last year,
every single time I would come home, I would always see a woodpecker in our front yard just hanging at our tree.
Nice.
You should scare
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely hear them. See them. They're a bigger bird for sure. Okay, hang on. We're going to keep moving a little bit.
My mom thinks it's one woodpecker.
The other says she saw woodpeckers this big. That's big.
I have a question though.
Jason has a question.
If you saw a woodpecker pecking on a tree, you went up and scared it, tried to scare it, would it come try pecking you?
No.
In fact, this is
Z, you want to know if woodpeckers would attack people? No.
How I learned from a trusted source that woodpeckers are
They're what?
harmless to trees.
Zeke says from a trusted source that woodpeckers are harmless to trees. Or from a trusted source. Okay.
The way they do
So here's the deal.
No, it's
The way they do it doesn't hurt the tree.
they can get around it.
They're just picking.
I know that in a way they are helpful because they are removing the bugs that are harming the tree. The big tree in my backyard is big and different because all the bark is falling off of it.
Yes.
But I mean, maybe different certain trees and certain woodpeckers. There are different types of woodpeckers. Riley, we can look it up.
So our truck that we have, so many cardinals. It happens with our neighbor too. But so many cardinals just come up on like our mirrors and start like pecking at the mirrors with their beaks, along with the windshield.
All right. Riley says her truck is often under attack by cardinals
Along with our
pecking
neighbor.
on it.
But I don't know why, because our truck is like silver and our neighbor's truck is red.
I don't know. Lily.
So this is a long time ago, but my grandma used to put CDs
Jason.
on her windshield because they would always poop on her windshield. So she would put CDs so it would scare them away.
All right. So yeah, Lily's. Did you say grandma? Used to put some on her windshield so that it would scare the birds off, so they wouldn't be pooping on her windshield all the time. Maggie.
At our house, we have windows in our kitchen, and there's these cardinals that come in and start pecking on the window and attacks the window. And we have like a screen over our window. They put their claws on like the little feet on
Little
the window,
talons.
and they just start like, and we got a hole in our screen because my mom puts bird feed out, and when it's empty, that's what they do. And they do it every morning before we go to school.
So she's got cardinals that hook onto the screen on their kitchen window and then peck on their window, and they peck the hole in the screen. Fiona.
I know why they do that. Because they can't see glass. They think there's another bird. And they see the reflections. That's why they do it. They think that it's another bird.
All right, they think it's another bird, so they're attacking. Okay, we're moving on.
It says woodpecker.
We're on page 160. I turned the page. I didn't read about all those little birds. You can do that on your own if you want. Okay. How do organisms benefit from interactions? Living things in an ecosystem depend on one another. For example, animals in an ecosystem depend on plants and other producers for food. Plants depend on animals for carbon dioxide. These interlocking relationships are examples of interdependence. Interdependence is the reliance of organisms on another organism for this survival. So that word that's in italics, interdependence, it means you have to rely on somebody else. You can't do it on your own. You depend on someone else.
Like your parents. Depend on them.
Right now, as a little child, even a big child, you are still pretty much dependent on your parents.
They
provide your shelter and your food.
in the house.
Shelter, yeah. They get you where you're going.
This map, are we dependent on you because you teach us?
Maggie says she's dependent on me because I'm teaching you. I like that.
We're
Hey,
depending
Miss Beth, I
on you
just
to give
found
us
something.
real stuff.
Depending on me to do my job and do it well so that you guys can grow up and be awesome grown-ups.
And we're your
Zeke.
depending on you to not give us stuff.
It's kind
Okay, here
of
you
weird.
one.
It's not that sense related, but if shouldn't every word be a proper noun because it's a specific word and it means a specific.
I'm gonna move on. All right.
I
have thought.
Some forms of interdependence are linked more closely than others. Here's a fancy word I want you to write down. Symbiosis. Symbiosis is a relationship between two or more kinds of organisms that lasts over time. Symbiosis. Relationship between two or more organisms that lasts over time. So we're going to talk about different types of symbiosis. Hang on a minute. Symbiosis. Let's see if I can somehow get this up here so that everybody can really see.
Our math facts are going.
I know.
Just now, there's bio in it.
That's
Symbiosis.
all I have written down.
Written down. Roten isn't a word. All right, guys. Hang on, I'm trying to get. Let me see how well you guys can see this board.
Wait. If it's relationship.
Sort of.
is it
Okay. So we're going to make a chart of the different kinds of relationships, and hopefully you guys can kind of see it too. Hang on. Oops. Oh dear. Get you as close as possible without breaking my camera, I think. All right, you guys can kind of see this board, yes. Okay. All right. So we've got this symbiosis, and there are 3 types of these symbiotic relationships. Okay, there are 3 types of symbiosis or symbiotic relationships. The first one we're going to talk about is mutualism. Mutualism. And when you hear mutual, this begins with mutual.
It kind of reminds me of like a map. Like a map.
Okay, Grayson said he's heard the commercial for Liberty Mutual, which is, I think, for insurance,
Yes.
life insurance or something. We're not talking about life insurance here. No. Yes, you're going to need to write down mutualism, Josie. So if something is mutual, it means they agree. Okay? Like if you have a mutual interest, it means you have a shared interest. You agree that you have things in common. Okay? Mutual means the same. So let's read about this. A symbiotic relationship that benefits both organisms is called mutualism. So basically what you need to write for mutualism is that both organisms benefit. Both organisms benefit. So I think about in the ocean, there are big whales, right? And they're really old. And they get like barnacles and sea stuff all over their body. And there are these other little fishes, and I don't know what the name of those little fishes are, but they come and what they eat is they eat the barnacles and all the yucky stuff off of the whale's body.
Parrotfish.
Okay? Zeke says they're called parrotfish.
Well, that's one type of them.
So that's one type of them, yes. So that's a mutualism. That's an example of mutualism because the parrotfish is benefiting because that's its food. And it's benefiting the whale because it's removing all that scaly, gross stuff off of its body.
It doesn't even affect the whale, though.
Huh?
The barnacles growing on the whale doesn't affect it.
But it's not hurting it. Okay? So they both benefit. So the relationship between a pollinator, which would be like a bee, and a flowering plant is an example of mutualism. The pollinator, usually an insect or a bird, gets sweet nectar from the flower. The plant gets its pollen transported to another flower, and both organisms gain from the relationship. So when a bee stops at the flower, that helps the bee. We know the bee can now go back to the hive and make honey with that pollen. But it also is dropping bits of pollen on all the other flowers so that then we can grow new flowers and the flowers can reproduce. Okay, so that's a mutualistic relationship. They are both benefiting. We'll talk about that. Yes.
Because I have a good example.
Okay, when we get there. All right, the relationship between ants and acacia trees is another example. The acacia tree provides food and home for the ants. And in turn, the ants defend the tree against other insect pests. How successful is it? Scientists use chemicals to get rid of the ants on acacia, and without the ants, the trees died.
No. Ants
So-
keep trees alive?
This particular kind of tree.
Oh, that
Yeah.
cactus looking one?
And another one is, an example is in lichen. A lichen is actually two different organisms, a fungus and an algae, and they live together. The fungus provides the algae with nutrients and a home, and the algae then does not dry out. The algae in turn provides food and oxygen to the fungus. So it's two things that have to have each other to survive. Okay, can anybody think of any other examples of mutualism? We've got ants and acacia trees from our book. We had bees and flowers. Any other examples that you can think of where both organisms are benefiting? Z.
I can't see it.
Okay. Maggie. Yes. Macy.
I got a question. How do ants help the tree?
It just said they protect it from other bad things.
What about the poisonous ants?
That's weird. What? How do ants like?
Wait, do cicadas?
So small.
It didn't say cicadas, it said ants and acacia trees. Acacia trees.
How
Okay.
do they protect it because it's so small? They're so small.
Well, they're protecting it from other bugs, it said. Other insects. Other small insects that could destroy the tree. Okay. The next type of relationship is called, yeah, trying to find a good marker, commensalism. You might think common and that they are the same, but it is not that. Commensalism is another one you're going to write down. One benefits and the other one doesn't care. Doesn't get anything out of it, but it doesn't hurt them either.
Wait.
Okay?
Is there one that the other one gets hurt? Is that the next one?
Okay, commensalism. Remoras are fish that attach themselves to the bodies of rays and sharks. And you see that in the picture above. The remora gets food scraps, transportation, and protection from the ray. But what does the ray get from the remora? While the remora does not hurt the ray in any way, it does not help the ray either. A symbiotic relationship that benefits one organism without harming the other is commensalism. Okay, so one benefits without hurting the other. And our first example, it said, is this remora fish and the stingrays. Okay. Can anybody else think of an example where one thing benefits but the other one doesn't really care?
Woodpecker in the tree. I think that.
Jason said he thinks maybe the woodpecker and the tree, the woodpecker's getting its food from it, and the tree might be indifferent.
But
The tree might be
Okay.
getting healthier.
It said, well, the site said.
I don't know if
it's very-
woodpecker's damaging the tree or not.
It
We
said,
have to look that up.
It said it's
But possibly.
very rare.
It could be helpful.
Well, the site said that it's very rare for the woodpecker to kill the tree, but it's possible. If the tree's like young.
Yeah. I'm not going to put the woodpecker thing there because I'm pretty sure that the woodpecker is causing some damage to the bark on the
Miss
tree.
Beth, I'm looking
My
it up.
tree in my backyard ain't doing so hot. And it's a big old tree. It's knocking all the bark off of it. Macy.
Maybe the woodpecker is like getting all the bugs off the tree for a reason.
It's getting all the bugs off the tree because that's its food. But it's also knocking bark off the tree that the tree needs for protection. We're going to talk about that relationship.
Knocking the bark off is better than killing the tree because those bugs in there.
Yeah.
Well, but knocking the bark off can also, depending on how much bark they knock off, can hurt the tree as well. All right, let's keep reading. Another example of commensalism is orchids growing on trees in a rainforest. Rather than root in the ground, the orchids anchor themselves high in a tree. This helps the orchid, but it doesn't hurt the tree. So it's an example of commensalism. Oh, here we go. Barnacles growing on the backs of whales are also commensal. The barnacles gain a home, and the whales are not hurt by the barnacles. There you go. All right, Zeke wins that one. Okay. Barnacles on whales, another example.
Miss Beth, have you breakfast?
Yes. All right.
This is what they do to the trees.
Oh, it's a parasite.
So they're kind
Woodpecker holes. Sorry, we just got some research evidence. Woodpecker holes themselves don't damage the tree, but when they knock the bark off, it leaves the tree vulnerable to damage. So, in a indirect way, they are harming the tree. Okay. Sometimes, back in the book, sometimes it is difficult to tell if a relationship between organisms is an example of commensalism. The clownfish, for example, lives among the tentacles of the sea anemone. Well, that makes me think about Nemo because they're clownfish and they live in a anemone. And they all have trouble saying it when they're little baby fishes. Anemone. Okay? It uses the anemone for protection. When chased by predators, the clownfish retreats to the anemone's tentacles, and in this relationship, the clownfish is clearly helped by the anemone. However, it is hard to tell if an anemone
It's hard to say.
An enemy.
benefits from this relationship. Most scientists think the relationship is an example of commensalism. The sea anemone isn't really getting anything from the clownfish, but the clownfish uses it for protection for a home. And we know what happened to Nemo when he left the anemone.
He died.
He didn't die. He had 2 movies. He had 2 whole movies worth of adventures. That's what happened.
Dory.
Is that
Wow.
blocking her view?
There's Nemo
Something
1
bad
and
down
Nemo
here.
2.
I'm blocking Maggie. Okay, sorry. All right. So clownfish and anemones. That's another example.
Another one?
Anemones. All right. Our last type of symbiotic relationship. Dun, dun, dun. Parasites. Parasitism. What do you guys think this one is going to be?
What I said.
I know you've heard the word parasite before.
It's like a little.
What do you think, Riley?
Is it a bus? It's either a dog and a birds and a fly on in the sky.
Okay, the birds are flying in the sky. The bees are on the flowers. But this is different.
The horses are on the ground.
Zeke, what's parasitism, do you think?
It's when one benefits and the other gets hurt.
One benefits and the other one gets hurt. A parasite is a bad thing.
Unless
You're the parasite. Unless you're.
When we think about parasites, Macy said she's thinking about bugs.
It's a small molecule.
Miss Beth, I
No,
know
that's
that
not
type
it.
of bug.
I have an example. Okay?
Zeke has an example.
So, a visible mosquito. It's a mosquito.
A mosquito is a parasite. Explain to me how a mosquito is a
The
parasite.
mosquito takes your blood, and that benefits the mosquito, so the mosquito can reproduce, and the human gets hurt by diseases and itching. And there's ticks too. There's
Mosquitoes?
ticks.
All right, you cannot all talk at once. Mosquitoes. They suck our blood. That's their food. They like that. That's good for them. It's bad for us. It makes us itchy, and they carry diseases.
I watched a video about mosquitoes.
Okay,
And they
Josie.
I was thinking of lice, because like it gives them a home and somewhere for them to lay their eggs, but it's not good for the human.
Exactly. Lice is another one. Ew, making my head itch just thinking about it.
Fleas.
Fleas. All right, Jason said fleas. They feed off of your cats and dogs, and it definitely hurts the cats and dogs.
That's why I came to say that.
You guys are making me itch. Like I'm feeling like super itchy right now. Grayson. Ticks.
Because they latch on.
They also latch on. You're a home for them. You're food for them. They also carry disease.
Wait, what about leeches?
A what?
Or leeches?
Weetu. What's a weetu?
Leech.
Leeches.
Oh, a leech.
This bad.
Yeah.
Leeches.
I have some.
Leeches. They suck your blood and they don't do anything good for us. Kendall.
Leapworm. Tapeworm.
Tapeworm. Yes. They feed off of you and they definitely cause harm. Your pets get all kinds of weird parasites. Tapeworm, roundworm, heartworm.
Stop.
Feeling a little creepy crawly. Okay, Riley.
So I have something funny to say about mosquitoes. They're just like vampires.
All right, Riley says mosquitoes are like little teeny vampires. Kind of true. All right, Fiona.
Okay, so I have a question and answer at the same time. Bees, they sting you, but yet they help benefit something else.
Okay. Ooh, I like that. Okay, Fiona says, well, bees. Let's go back to bees. Because bees and humans, we could consider them almost a parasite because what they're doing to us is harmful. They're stinging us and putting their little bee venom into us.
Yeah, but then the bees like.
But then the bee dies when he stings.
Yeah.
But the bee also has a different relationship with the flowers. So you can look at certain organisms can be different types of things. They have a parasitic, not really parasite because they don't benefit. I don't know what that's called when you just hurt each other. But they can be different things. Okay, so snakes. Let's talk about a snake. A snake, just a little garden snake.
It doesn't do any venom or anything. It's just like.
Or even a copperhead. Okay? He's poisonous. He's poisonous. He causes me harm. I could lose a foot if I step on him and I don't get that treated right away and he bites me. Okay?
Lose your whole leg.
Could lose your whole leg depending on how big and the venom.
You turn into.
Okay? But he also eats all the rats and the mice and the whatever's in my garden, and he's helpful. At least, well, I don't know.
What do you call that?
So he would be a parasite because he's hurting us, but he's fine, right? He's benefiting. He's eating rats and mice, and they're not doing so hot. they're not getting anything out of that relationship. Okay? All right. So let's read about, hang on, I know we've got tons of examples of parasites. Those are easy.
I don't.
Okay, Maggie doesn't. All right.
My
Maggie.
dad called me a parasite.
What's that mean?
Maggie's dad calls her a parasite. What does that mean? That you're mooching off of him. That he's getting nothing from you, and you're taking all of everything from him.
Miss Bab.
Okay.
I am not leaving another one. I just want to say something about one. Mosquito is actually a really good way of how the coronavirus could spread. Because if they take the blood from a person with the blood, if they take a person that has coronavirus, then
Okay, Jason's saying that mosquitoes could transmit coronavirus. That's probably, I don't,
No, because
I don't know if it's in your blood or if it's just in your respiration.
Because as babies,
I don't know, but I'm not a coronavirus
they
scientist, so I'm
have
going to carry on.
3 tubes. Is how they drink out, and some blood from their body goes out while it's trying to take some in.
Okay, thanks for sharing.
Yeah, stop talking about coronavirus.
All right, spiders. Some spiders have good relationships with your garden, bad relationships with you. They bite you and give you poison, black widow, brown recluse, but they are good at killing other unwanted bugs and things in your garden.
Black widows.
Lily.
One time at the lake, there was a snake in my dad's boat, and he had a paddle and he chopped his head off.
That's what
Lily said one time there was a snake in their boat at the lake, and her dad took a paddle and chopped its head off.
My mom took a shovel and
I found a little tiny baby snake. It was just a brown snake in one of my flower beds, and I had like one of the, like on the edge of your flower bed sometimes you have those little like bricks that are fancy, like to go around the edge of your flower bed. I pulled out one of those fancy bricks and I like smashed it on the little baby snake.
Kill snakes. How
Because I don't want him getting me. That's why I'm a snake. My name is Amber Babb, and I am a snake murderer.
Me too.
It's true. Okay. All right. Now let's read about parasites. Thank you for your examples. Some partnerships are harmful for individuals in a relationship. Parasitism is a symbiotic relationship where one organism benefits and the other is harmed. Parasite lives in or on the host organism and benefits from the relationship. For example, ticks are parasites on dogs and other animals. Ticks use the host's body for a home and a food source. The tick attaches itself to the host and then harms the host by taking its blood. The tick's host gets no benefit. We are not benefited, and sometimes we are harmed because not only are they taking our blood, but they can transmit something called Lyme disease, which is not good.
Lyme disease. Oh yeah,
Some parasites are very harmful for the host organism. Millions of people around the world have parasites called tapeworms. Good job, Kendall Cole. These worms live inside a person's intestinal tract. Tapeworms more than 70 centimeters, 2 feet in length, have been found in humans. Tapeworms can harm their hosts by causing fevers and digestive problems. Another dangerous parasite is a lamprey. A lamprey is a parasitic fish. They use their sucker-like mouth to attach themselves to other fish. They suck out its blood and other bodily fluids. Yuck. And then some parasites are protists, including the species of amoeba that causes a disease called dysentery. Dysentery amoebas enter the host's body through contaminated food or water. The protist that causes sleeping sickness in Africa lives in the bodies of cows and other large animals. When these animals are bitten by flies, the fly transfers the protist to humans, causing the disease. All right. So
we do flies too.
this is it for today. These 3 types of relationships. You need to know these for down the road.
Thanks for sitting me next to me.
So in the biosphere, so far, last time we learned about like food chains, and we know that bears eat, well, I don't know, foxes. And foxes eat rabbits. And rabbits eat plants. We know that we eat cows and cows eat grass. We know about the food chains. But food chains, today what we learned is food chains are not the only way that the biosphere interacts with each other. There are lots of other types of relationships, okay? And so today we learned about 3 other ways that animals and organisms can have relationships together. You guys listening?
Yes.
Because this will be on the test eventually. Okay. All right, so mutualism, both organisms are benefiting and they are happy. Ants in the acacia trees, bees and flowers. Commensalism, one of them is benefiting. Remoras and rays, barnacles on whales, clownfish and anemones, and parasitism. One of them is living there but they are harming the other one. Ticks, lice, mosquitoes, fleas, tapeworms.
Snake.
Gross. Well, here's the deal. Okay? That's what I got for you today. I'm going to stop there for today. Riley has a question.
Actually, another question. But so we were at my aunt's house one time, and there was a snake, and so Wyatt, I don't know if you guys know him, Wyatt Shoggy. So he found the snake, and my aunt didn't believe him. But then me, Carter, Bella, and some other friends went over, and we seen it. So Kristen grabbed a shovel, tried stabbing it with the stabbing the snake with the shovel. That didn't work. So she went inside, got her mom. Her mom came out with a knife, and so she stabbed the snake's head with a knife. And yow. And then
That is intense. Okay.
my mom.
So let's
my brother peaches.
All right. Let's rewind a minute. Let's rewind. Okay. When we actually read the definition of parasite, it said it had to live on the other thing. So is a snake a parasite?
No.
No.
Is a spider a parasite?
No.
No.
Okay. But fleas, ticks, lice,
Maggie.
okay?
Why are you saying me?
All right. You're not actually a parasite, Maggie. Daddy is wrong. Not a parasite. None of you are.
My mom called me and my brother a leech.
Same.
Leech, little sucker. Okay. All right. Zeke.
I hate how people kill harmless creatures that aren't doing it.
You killed the deer.
Miss Deb, I have it.
Yeah,
Zeke, the deer hunter, just said he hates it that I killed a harmless snake. Zeke, the deer hunter. I never killed Bambi. I never killed Bambi, and I didn't eat Bambi jerky.
No, I love it.
Oh, wait, I have, because Zeke fed me Bambi jerky.
I tried it. And it's good.
All right. Anyway, Josie.
Oh, well, I just have a story. We can stop recording once we're done.
You're good. Oh, the story. Josie never wants her stories on the recording.
Yeah, but the snake, you don't eat the snake.
Miss Deb.
Okay, Maggie.
So once we saw, I think it was a green, I don't know, it was a green snake, and it was on the tree. My older brother, he picked the snake up by its tail, and my little brother started touching it and like hitting it, and then it started moving. My older brother threw it over by the road because we were kind of close to the road. And then when I was fishing once, I had a fish that there was a snake that came up and started eating my fish. And my little brother yanked my pole out of my hand and just started going like that with it. and then I just like picked the line up just like this, and my older brother he just started wiggling it, and the snake flew off it just went into like.
Riley.
The grass, allow you to eat the grass.
You're right. All right. PJ.
DJ.
Oh. He left.
Oh, he's on.
He raised his hand.
Bye, DJ.
Paging Mr. Drysdale.
Bye, DJ.
Sorry. I have a question.
Okay.
Why is cool names not allowed?
Why is what? You broke up. I didn't hear you.
He's asking
Why is cool neck games not allowed?
There's a new thing called Spikes now.
The new securely program is blocking everything.
There's a new one.
What?
I didn't block you.
Sorry.
Miss Val.
Also, anything that requires Flash Player isn't working because Flash Player got destroyed too.
No. It's because at the end of 2020,
Lily's
games
just
got rid
quit
of
school.
Flash.
Lily's just leaving. She's walking out. She's so mad. Flash Player's gone. I'm out. Done. School, I quit.
No.
Okay. And let me just say while I'm on the recording for anybody else, the securely thing, the chat thing, it's still not working. You guys don't have the chat bubble unless I message you first. And me messaging you an announcement doesn't give you the chat bubble. So I don't know what's going on. I would have to message every single person every day for you to get a chat bubble. Let me just tell you that ain't happening. I love you guys, but I'm not sending 25 individual messages every single morning to get a chat bubble. So, but what I will say is your email is on. Even though we're not in red, your email is on. So if you're at home, or if you guys are absent one day and you're at home, you can email me your questions, okay? Because you don't have a chat thing anymore. So you can just email me your questions. That's what I can say for now. All right, Sophie.
Whenever you're talking about snakes, then maybe remember this one time I was looking at, or my little sister walked up to the window to see